everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Next Phase podcast. I'm your host, Ben Schimmoller. Thanks for coming and joining us tonight. We got some awesome guests. We've got Alex Gonzalez, the Bone Daddy, a multiple best death player, won it multiple times in the ITC, a great, fantastic tournament player. Also has earned second place in the ITC tournament circuit before for Age of Sigmar. Our other awesome guest, Jack Ballard, great fun guy. He is with Rerolling Ones, one of the best order players out there, and he recently won best order at the Emerald City Open of this year. So we're really excited to have you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
You're also forgetting that he is the Shootcast player.
That's true.
Yes.
He taught us all how it is done.
Yes.
Stormcast
Unintentionally. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Also, like to give props to Ben. I've seen Ben before, but I got to like interact and know Ben at karaoke at Emerald City Open, and I was like, oh my god, this dude's dope. How come I didn't hang out with him before? Him and Jack, the lesser cool Jack, but he's still cool. And of course,
thanks so much.
But you got to do his intro.
I appreciate it, Jack. You flatter me. I had a great time too. So everybody pull up a glass and let's get cracking with the previous phase, our first segment of the show. So last month, you'll remember we talked with Jeremy and Tom about kind of the set and situation of the meta. Dragons was the name of the game coming out of it. This time we're going to see what our awesome players here think between the Old Town Throwdown and a little more time afterwards as the meta's evolved between events they've gone to and where they've been practicing. So first of all, I'm eager to hear from Jack. What armies are you seeing win games right now and why?
Of course, I went to Emerald City Open and Las Vegas Open for the ITC and what's it, LVO? LVO. And so I got to see, of course, you saw Living Cities kick butt with Dragons and Fulminators. And at Emerald City Open, what won was, Legion of the First Prince. And so I've gotten games against both those armies. And so it's very, but with did we talk about the new Games Workshop rules with the Prime?
Not yet. So that's okay. Coming.
That's going to, I believe that will change stuff up. But in my opinion, I think it will change things at first because people are going to overreact to it. But then we'll see, because when I think about it, how many games did I ever lose by 1 or 2 points? Not many. When I win or lose, it's usually by a lot. So I think this is going to affect lists right away. And so when it boils down to it, I think we'll see the same stuff win that we saw win until we see Ideneth and Fireslayers kind of get in the meta. So as of right now, we're going off of the current stuff, but I've never played against Beast of Chaos, so I haven't the new Beast of Chaos. But I still think Fulminators, Dragons are still going to be good until people get out there for new tournaments.
Awesome.
I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I'm here to hear your take, Alex, on what armies are used in win games right now.
Well, to springboard off of what Jack mentioned, he of course mentioned the War Scroll or the Battle Tome or whatever it was called, the rules update, which introduced both prime targets and predator or hunters. Now, hunters are not going to be certain War Scrolls, but rather entire allegiances. For order, it's Sylvaneth. If you're a Sylvaneth army, you get points. You get bonus points for killing certain types of predators. Everyone gets points for killing predators, but you get a bonus if you're a Sylvaneth player and you kill a predator, which I'll get to in a moment. For death, it's Night Haunt and OBR, since they're very much on the lower tier end of things right now. In addition to that, destruction, you're looking at specifically Bone Splitters within within Orc War Clan army and Gloomspite Gits. And in addition to that, we have for Chaos, Skaven, and I think that's it. I think it's just Skaven. You know, I doubt it would be Slave to Darkness or anything like that. But, you know, a lot of the big common strong units are predators. So, you know, on top of getting the bonus points if you're a hunter army, a hunter allegiance, you get bonus points if you're any army and you kill these predators. Death doesn't have any of them. However, destruction, it's all the Gargants and a Maw Crusher. You know, for chaos, it's things like Be'lakor, it's things like Archeon, it's things like a Demon Prince of Khorne, because that is a very frustrating unit to fight against. Going into my Old Town Throwdown talk, you know, that's something to bring up. But and then for Order, they have a ton of predators. It's basically all the things that people complain about. And, you know, I'm not saying that they're not justified in complaining about them. They are very, very strong and sometimes even undercosted units. Things like Stormdrake Guard, things like, bow snakes, Marathi. We are looking at long strikes, or specifically Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows.
Long strikes are fine. Long strikes are fine. You don't got to bring those up at all.
Oh, no, I know. But hey, I saw, it's funny because you posted that you were moving on to something, right? And then literally like an hour later to like a day later, I see like 4 different chats where people were posting their work in progress pictures of the exact same unit. And I was like, fulminators, like Ben just mentioned too, those are also predators. So there's a lot of bonus points that we scored against these like really strong units. You know, they are obviously the meta right now. All of those things. The bow snakes, you can argue, have been a meta in like prominence for far longer than the Stormcast ones. We're talking maybe 9 months to a year. It's like those lists have, like, if I was a DOK player, I'd be like bored to tears right now, because there's no reason to change the list. And there's so few units in the War Scroll that there's really not a lot of ways to change the list unless you want to like make a blatantly bad army. And so it's like, you know, it's weird. You know, right now, I like the idea of them, rather than constantly changing points, making these types of updates. I know a lot of people are worried about that, but yeah, what's up?
Oh no, I'm just going to piggyback off what you're saying after you're done.
Okay, so before I go further into it,
cut off Alex. Somebody,
cut me off. What's up?
Oh yeah. So I like, this is something that I didn't realize how important it was. What it was until I went to a tournament in Chicago. I went to Holy Wars, and there are people out there who just look at the book, who don't like go online to see updates and stuff. And like, where we're so in this bubble, where we're so concerned about the competitive stuff, if you can make the rules in the book last as long as possible, like it's point wise and whatnot, and this little update helps that last longer. So you have your physical media, the points in there last longer if you update the predators and prey and whatnot through this update. That way, you know, my things being 150, I can look at the book, it's worth 150. I go out as 150, but now I just need to know, hey, your list's still valid, but if I kill that, it's worth 2 victory points because it's so good. I think that is like, because we like live in this bubble where, you know, we're so up to date. But if you go off of that article written by Goonhammer, where it's like 0.4% of people play in tournaments or in this competitive world, and you realize like, hey, it's not all about us. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, if you update through this, I like that better, because people who don't worry about points can learn how to play still.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. You know, it can be super heavy-handed when you like have to constantly change points here and there. I mean, I will say, I think Stormdrake Guard could use an additional point increase. Their initial point increase wasn't really comparable to things that are like it. But everything else, I don't think that you need to see another points change to, you know, things like foamies or, you know, bow snakes or things like that. In fact, bow snakes are like at a point where they should either be at that point or maybe even a little cheaper, I would say, which is just kind of my hot take. But right now, I also think that, you know, we were all but confirmed that, each year, each general handbook might be in a different realm. And since we've had this new function of playing in GUR for almost a complete year, people have talked about, and there's been rumor mills about, which ones are going to be the next ones. I like the rumor about things eventually going into the, 4.0 and going into Azure, which would be really cool because that's one that just hasn't been touched fluff-wise, game-wise, etc. But, there's shadow elves that are eventually going to come out, and maybe Olgu might be the next realm, or with all the stuff that's in the Fire Slayer book, it might be Ashqui, which is going to be coming up in the future. So the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because of the fact that these changes to these prime hunters, or these hunters and these prime predator units, I think that when we move away from the General's Handbook, that since the bonus point for killing a monster right now is strictly and solely from this General's Handbook, because it's a rule that you get for playing in the realm of GUR.
Yeah,
I think that when we move over to another realm, this is going to be that kind of like popular mechanic that I personally enjoy it. It's like a risk reward of having these things, like having a monster heavy army is like, cool, I can smash face. But like if I fight that shooting army that can really get me, like I'm hosed, right? And all these bonus points I'm giving away to my opponent. So, I think that, this new change that just happened is going to be kind of a foreshadowing to what we might see in the new book as like part of the core rules. So that's just the way that I think of it.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves on what's coming in the future. But
but I'm talking about the rules that just happened.
Sure. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
So I think then coming up, I'd be curious to hear, especially from Jack, what players you guys think are who to be watching this ITC season.
So Alex Gonzalez has been good forever. And so I think a player to watch is him. It seems like, hey, but Alex, people don't recognize if he's really good. Alex is good. I beat him once at my house.
Yeah, he beat the crap out of me.
I did. Alex is a really good player. People sleep on him or whatever. He's ranked top 10 Honest Wargamer. He's in their thing. In ITC, he's fucking top 10 as well. Watch for Alex. People will tune into this not knowing how good you are, but Alex is one of the top players. So keep an eye out.
What do you think, Alex? Some other
players? I mean, there's a lot of players all across the United States, all across the country, and international. Jack, of course, to pat his back as well. He's a really good player, really strong Stormcast player. But in our area, we have such a strong kind of community of Age of Sigmar players, and Northeast and Texas is all, these are all real strong regions with large player bases as well. So it's really cool to see kind of the diversity that's been going on. Of course, someone to continue to watch in Texas is going to be Gavin. Gavin, we can talk about this when we talk about events, but he will take like a D tier army and he'll win a major with it. All of the Team America crew, which are primarily East Coast, all of those players are incredibly talented as well. Noah was my one loss at LVO, and that was easily one of those it's like I've had maybe 5 games out of 20 years of wargaming where I want to cry happy tears afterwards and be like, fuck, that was a goddamn game, and that was one of them. He's an incredibly talented player. Down south, in Southern California, there are amazing players as well. Noah, who helps run Old Town Throwdown, his Stormcast is really strong.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a great dude. He's a great dude.
Great guy.
Mm-hmm. And then, his buddy, of course, I don't want to advertise him too much because it's kind of the Honest Wargamers thing, but the Nuge, he and his Beast of Chaos are fantastic. In fact, I was talking to people on Discord trying to get prepared for Old Town Throwdown because I was just convinced in my head that even though there were 3 BOK Beast of Chaos players there, that I was going to have to fight at least one of them. And it might have been the Nuge. And so I was totally prepped and hyped up to play against Beast of Chaos. Didn't play a single one. But they are, of course, very, very strong now with the new update. I played a pre-update version of that at ECO, at Emerald City Open, and from a good player in Washington. And that was during our game, we were just talking about it. And it was well, once the update goes through, this would have done this, this, and this. And I'm like, fuck, I would have been in a way worse position.
All right, guys. So quick, 45 seconds each. I want to hear your spiel of what you think, final thoughts on the current meta in the last month.
Current meta, it like in a game like this where it's growing and living, it's transitional. So the current meta where it's like, fulminators and living cities and dragons and stuff like that, where like I'm enjoying Stormcast, even though I don't play dragons, I'm enjoying, I went 4-1 and got best order at Emerald City Open. But like these books are coming out. So I think, looking at the new IDNF Deepkin and people who are anti-shooting, that's going to shake up the meta. Because if you're all in on shooting like I am usually, you're not going to be able to go 5-0 because you're going to run into a Deepkin player because new armies, new players, new books and stuff, and so you're going to have a tough time against that. So we're in transitional period, but so as of right now, I think, and of course I know some. I'm looking at. I can't. When's this come out?
Next week.
Okay, so MDA is not up yet, so I'm not going to talk about what's sitting over there, but stuff's still changing.
What's sitting over there? I wonder.
I can't talk about what's going on over there, but yeah.
Alex, you want to give us a quick peek about your last event in the last month that you've seen in the meta?
I think that the internet sensationalism of things that were really, really, really strong ended up not being as wild and crazy as it could have been. During this month, there were some kind of things that would prove my statement just now wrong. And the fact that a Games Workshop employee went to Warhammer, an event at Warhammer World and won it with all dragons and fulminators, despite this new rules update that has happened this month as well. So I think that might just be a fluke. As things go on, like Jack said, we're going to maybe see a little bit more, a little bit more of a balancing, but that's for the future. Right now, I think that it's been really diverse when you see the events that have happened in the month of March and late April or late February as well. And I'm excited to see all these new armies come up. I think that you're going to see more Beast of Chaos players slowly, just because a lot of people probably didn't have that army and need to paint it and build it. And then hopefully you see more corn armies. This is my thought and prayer, because fighting against 4 or 3 Bloodthirsters in Scarbrand is a fucking nightmare. And I played it and it made me want to start that army so bad. So I'm liking the diversity.
I dig it. So that was our previous phase. Thanks so much, Jack and Alex. I love hearing your thoughts about what's been going on in meta and local scenes. So next, we're going to roll into our current phase. Welcome to the current phase of the In Your Phase Network podcast. We're excited here to have Alex Gonzalez with us and Jack Ballard, two fantastic tabletop generals from the Pacific Northwest. Jack, the king of shooting and order. Alex, the king of the death and maniac of grave guards, so we've been told. So I'm really excited to talk with you guys about what the current meta looks like in terms of what's it take to go to an event and succeed at it. And so I think to start off, I guess my first question I would pose is, what do you guys think you got to do to come to an event and not just get raffle stomped, to have a decent showing?
I'll start off first. I think with the updates and with the new books being Fire Slayers and Deepkin, and the new Predators, and you get multiple Predator units and whatnot. I think it's more important to be all around than you used to be, because I used to skew shooting heavy. That's how I played, and I think I had a lot of success early in my competitive career, because I thought people overreacted to Lookout Sir, and Lookout Sir is just -1 hit, and so you can, if you have enough shots, that doesn't really, if you're shooting. So I was able to win a lot of games because people like, oh, shooting's dead, and dropped it. It was shooting never died. But now with the new Deepkin book, and I think it got better at being anti-shooting than it was before. Because some of the times if it's high tide or low tide, you have to be within 12, kind of like Mirror Shear, where you have to be within 9. And so I think being more well-rounded is more important now than it used to be. So if you skew heavy shooting, you're not going to, if your goal is to go 5-0 and win a GT, that's going to be really hard to do. And so for my current list, I've dropped some of my heavy shooting and I've added more, just more melee. And like, my issue is like trying to learn how to be a melee fighter. And well, when I was like, I'll just shoot you off and you don't get to shoot me back, that's fine. But like, and so being able to, it's something I'm like learning in getting games in where, okay, I need to, put chaff in front so I don't get charged when I need to charge and things like that. But I think being more well-rounded is important to the current meta.
Totally.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with Jack on that one. Part of me would originally wanted to say a complete repeat of last month's episodes, but don't want to copy the homework here. So actually, I have two things that are on my mind when it comes to this. First of which is to play the mission, not your opponent, right? All too often, and especially with new Fire Slayers, you're going to see a lot of slow, short dwarves on the other side of the table, and you're going to want to just go for them. Well, I can tell you right now, after one practice game, I pushed in the win against the other boogeyman, but oh boy, did I realize that they can bring the hurt. So I think that you need to play the missions as much as you can, especially if you know that your army is going to have a hard time, like in combat or staying on the table against the player's army on the other side of you, from you, then try to make sure that you can score as many points as possible, and engage them and make sure that you are the one who's in control of the engagement when you're playing. That's the first thing, but that segues right into the next thing. What's up?
Oh no!
Oh, you're just agreeing.
Yeah, I was agreeing in a local tournament we had here, RTT. A player named James Terwilliger, he won 2 games where he got tabled. Or pointed out, like, if you get tabled, you'll still win. Like, it's based off points and missions and all these battle tactics. He got tabled 2 games and won the tournament because he still won those games.
That is awesome.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I love hearing these stories.
Exactly. And that actually goes to the next thing too, right? Sometimes when you get tabled, you can get, a headspace that maybe you don't want to be in. And I think that I've seen a little bit more lately with multiple events all across the US, both, ones that I've been to, LVO, ECO, even down at Old Town Throwdown. Sometimes the dice don't go our way. Sometimes we make a decision that we, might regret immediately after we make that decision. I think that when those type of things occur, we kind of have to basically roll with the punches, and you have to be very adaptive. And you also have to understand that it's a game and it's a dice game on top of that. So, making sure that you can have a cool and a level head during your games is going to be really important for, of course, the enjoyment of the game for yourself, especially, and even more so, the enjoyment of the game for your opponent. Making sure that you guys are both having a good time when you're rolling dice is going to be really good. And, that's making sure that you're ready and prepared for any result in the game is going to be good, while also definitely hoping and trying to maybe win the game.
For sure. So I like that. I want to piggyback a little bit on this idea of playing to the mission. And so can you guys, I'd love to hear from both of you, your perspective on what's a great way to do that. What does it mean to play to the mission? Can we break that down a little bit more?
Yeah, well,
yeah, go for it. Alex.
I mean,
I want to hear from Jack.
Yeah, Jack, what's up?
Starting off like things where when you realize like I don't have to be in combat if I don't want to. Like if I'm in combat and it's my turn, and little things like as a new player you might like, well, I'm in combat. No, just retreat. You can retreat out, and I still have like now these units are alive, and like I'm on the objective now. It's like there's this thing where it's like yeah, we're at war, but you're trying to going for the mission where you're just like, oh yeah, I don't have to fight if I don't need to. And if I might get a double turn, I can actually I retreated out during my turn, and I'm on the objective still, and I still have it. And now I can retreat out and go over here. It's like the thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're here to kill units. Yeah, that it's fun when you're playing against buddies and like drinking beer. But if you're trying to be competitive and win tournaments, it's about points. It's about all these things. And to get into that mindset where you're like, yeah, it's not about crushing everything and like, hearing the lamentations of the women. Like you need to, like you're trying to get points. And
Right
so
on.
that is like a mindset you need to get into. And so it's like it's not all about like seeing where the fights are advantage to you and not. And so it's okay to retreat, even if you're playing corn, even if it's not for the lore, even if it's like you're playing Iron Jaw. It's like, what do you mean retreat?
My favorite part about retreating with corn is for a CP, you can just engage within 6 inches anyways.
Yeah. It's like, hey,
Nobody runs it in our area. I have no idea.
you can play narrative if you want, but if you want to win games and go competitive, like you don't have to play the lore and like theme of your army. Like no. Gordrak's gonna retreat, even though he's like but I need to be over here now. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to tell you as a player, like stuff like, oh, like even if you, like I just mentioned, even if you table your opponents, you don't win.
No.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Alex, do you want to take that idea a little further too?
Yeah, of course. Piggybacking off of what Jack just mentioned, making sure that we can, know our, and also, as I mentioned a moment ago, making sure that we can choose our battles when we do so, especially if we're going up against harder matchups, that can always be really good. Making sure that we can go for, thinking ahead when it comes to the battle tactics, like, as discussed in the last episodes, in thinking about what the flow of the game is going to look like and what your opponent's choices are going to be compared to where your own might be during the game is going to be helpful for you to determine which battle tactics are going to be done on which turns. Remembering your opponent's grand strategy is also going to be incredibly important. More and more missions use that. And my favorite sets of missions are either, the ones, made by, like ECO with Victoria's Secret Crew, the ones that they made. But I also am a huge fan of, Old Town Throwdowns system as well. And, both systems can have benefits for, denying battle tactics or grand strategies. Making sure that you can get those bonus points when you can sometimes mean that you have to remember what your opponent's grand strategy is. Not everyone runs hold the line, despite the fact that like 89 million, it feels like it's almost 100%, right? It seems like almost everyone runs hold the line. So, but not everyone does, right? And especially as more faction or special sub-faction grand strategies exist, you got to know what those are. You got to ask questions. Actually, that's it. Ask questions. That's actually my part.
Big.
Boom.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
Like you want to be, as a player, you want to be, you don't want gotcha moments. You want to be like, I gotcha'd John, the guy who
Really?
at Nova, because I was like, I assumed he knew. And like, he was like, oh, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't tell you. And like, you don't want to be that way. So like, but just assuming you don't want to gotcha somebody doesn't mean they don't want to gotcha you. So ask questions. What's your grand strategy? All these things, like what do you do? There's all these things that you need to know. And I think one of those things, like this game, like as far as competitive work, is not all about knowing your army. You have to know everybody else's too. You have to know what your opponent's army does. And that's where reps come in. That's where like local tournaments come in, RTTs, just getting reps. Having a gaming club is really nice because you can see different looks and, battle reports and like,
Totally.
Shout out to Seasons of War. They're different than the battle reports we put out because they're the competitive edge.
Yeah.
And so like watching things like that where you can see, okay, I can see what these armies do. And it's super important because you have to know not only what you do, what your army does, what your opponents, like future opponents might do. And, it is a process to be good.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I've learned in my competitive thing. You have to actually put in effort to be good at this game.
Totally. I mean, I think of, at SoCal Open, I played against a Corn Archeon list, and I asked the guy, I was like, do you have any questions about my army? He's like, yeah, it's sold like Grave Lords. I'm like, but do you know all the characters? He's like, yeah, I saw the list. And then like during his turn, he asks me twice what Manfred does. And I was like, hold on. I put both hands on the table and I looked at him like, I'm now going to tell you everything that my entire army does because your movement phase is about to start. I don't want you to screw this up. Like, and he was like, cool. And then I finally tell him and he's like, okay, I didn't know what Manfred does. I was like, just tell me. Like, don't say, yeah. No, I got it. I saw your list. I'm like, no, if you don't know, ask.
I'm like, yeah. Oh, you see what he did? I'm like, I asked you if you knew.
Exactly. And here's the thing, right? At Old Town Throwdown, I played against Tom, and like I said, I'm in love with the idea of 4 Bloodthirsters. I'm just not going to shut the fuck up about it until I try it and get rocked. But
I'll be here.
I asked Tom, I was like, what does Scarbrand do? And he told me, and then I'm looking at the War Scroll while he's telling me, and I'm like, oh my God.
Have your long strike, shoot him off. So you don't got to worry about it. Like, I still don't know what Lady Olinder, I don't know what Lady Olinder does to this day. Like, shoot her off before she gets
That's fair. That's fair.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Those are some great thoughts. If you're gonna condense it down, then maybe quick little 30-second answer here. If you were gonna pick up brand new army, or maybe a better version of this is what's on your workbench right now for the current meta that you're gonna be playing with.
Okay, what's on my workbench? Apropos to nothing in the future.
Right. Certainly never that.
Again, it's on my workbench now. I already had them. Don't even worry about it. Like, you know.
Don't even worry. Don't even trip, dog.
Like, I don't know anything. Don't buy anything because I'm playing it. But yeah, Dodgers game right now. See? Oh no, you can't look at it. No.
All right, how about you?
Dude, man, you know, I obviously have been playing Soulblight. If anyone has been in any Discord channel with me, they know that I'm already kind of bored with Soulblight. I want my ghosties. I want my babies back. You know I can't ask certain questions, but you know,
edit this out. Yeah, pick something else.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Edit that out.
Oh, that's depressing. Oh man. Yeah, you know, I want to try messing around with OBR. I've been looking at them. Only problem, and I had this conversation with Jeremy a few days ago when I played him with his Fire Slayers. It was like, yeah, you can have a really good army with OBR and you can make it work, but like, just make sure you don't play against a shooting list. And I'm like, you can't just like magically change the pairings. I was like, you can't just be like, you know what? I'm going to choose not to play the shooting list. I'm like, that's not a strategy. Like, you can't strategize pairings, right? Like, so I was just like, yeah, every time I look at my OBR list, I'm like, I'm happy with it. And then I think about how it would do against shooting. And I'm like, no. Fuck. So yeah, you know, right now I'm hoping that a Nighthaunt book brings, even if it's not outwardly strong, maybe I can pull a little 2019 magic out of my hat. If not, yeah, it's just gonna have to be more vampires and crap. Or corn.
Yeah, you mentioned shooting, and like, I think Deepkin will definitely bring balance to the force. Because if somebody's super heavy shooting, they're gonna have a rough time against Deepkin. Like, I still, like, you know, shout out to Matt Pashby. I think he's retired, but like, never beat him. Like, I beat Deepkin once, you know, playing heavy shooting. And so if that brings, like, raises the tide for anti-shooting, playing a list that will lose the shooting, it will let you get a shot, because, you know, people might not bring it knowing Deepkin's out there. So I think there are going to be a lot of paper, rock, scissors, or if you play Pokemon, you know, grass type, fire type, water type, or whatever, it's going to bring more balance. So it's like, if I know I'm bringing shooting, well, this guy is Deepkin, so I'm probably not going to lose. But I'm playing Alex, who's playing OBR, who beats Deepkin, who then beats me, who then beats, you know. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I really appreciate your thoughts, gentlemen. I know that we talked a lot in this segment, talking a lot about, you know, asking opponents questions so that you don't get gotcha'd, you know, reading up and knowing your stuff, trying to dig into what your opponent does and understand the meta, doing a balanced force approach, that maybe the era of shooting is finally on the way out. So we talked a lot in our current phase about those issues. Next phase, we are going to be talking about what the future maybe holds. So we'll see you then. welcome to the next phase of the In Your Phase Network podcast. So we're on episode 2 here. We've got Alex Gonzalez, the Bone Daddy, and Jack Ballard re-rolling ones. Let's crack into it, boys, about what we think is coming up with future events, what the meta is going to be looking like, erratas, FAQs, new war tomes, how it's going to shake it all up. So let's roll off with, I know we touched a little bit on the Predators and Prey rules that are new, and there may be some connections. I want to hear maybe a quick little more snippet about those from you guys, if you would, please.
Yeah, I know that I don't have any sort of special, I haven't looked into the scrying pool like others may have, or were given access. But, I'm really excited to see the changes that Deepkin and Fire Slayers are going to add. As I mentioned before, Fire Slayers are going to be very hardy. They aren't going to be, in my opinion, they're not going to be as crazy nuts. But I also just have PTSD from 2019, having to play Jeremy constantly. Me playing at the time a C list at best army, but doing okay with it, and then having to fight against Jeremy with his Fire Slayers and being like, cool, I can never beat this. It's not that fight anymore, which is cool. But holy crap, do you kind of need shooting against them? The counterattack is incredibly strong. Basically, if you're an army that relies on hitting and hitting hard and making that first charge, well, once per game, each one of those units that are not a hero will immediately be able to attack at the start of the combat phase. Right then and there. So you got to be able to withstand the hits, and even more so, like reinforcing the statements and talks that we had in that last phase about picking your battles, even more so against Fire Slayers than any other army. I think, mentioning what, I haven't seen enough Deepkin, new Deepkin yet, but if they play like Jack mentioned, very anti-shooting, I think that this is a really good dichotomy of an anti-shooting army and also an army that might be a little bit more vulnerable to shooting, but very, very brawly. I kind of like the idea of both of these armies and how they're going to affect the greater kind of meta as a whole in our region. There are Deepkin players. There are Fire Slayer players. Are they in prominence? No. But are they probably excited, want to run things and show up with them more often? Absolutely, yeah. So I'm excited to see that.
I think you definitely have to, online, you have to, before you have to find a trusted source of information.
Yes.
Because I'm part of the Fire Slayers Facebook group. Of course, when you're in those Facebook groups, you're going to find a lot of people who are, it's a derogatory term, but Facebook players just thrown out a lot. But it's just more casual players who don't play a lot. And so when you hear guys say, "Oh, new Fire Slayers are trash. I played against this guy and I lost, and therefore they're garbage." Like, there's what is your list? Who do you play against? What was your strategy? All these things are important rather than like, "Hey, I lost, therefore Fire Slayers aren't good." Like Jeremy V talked to me. I asked him about Fire Slayers, what he thought of the book, and he told me and I trust him as a top tier player and what he said about Fire Slayers, and okay, that's who I trust. He's trusted source, one of the best players in the world. And before you throw the army away, again, wait, this is, we're knee-jerk reactions. The books just came out. There hasn't even been an FAQ yet. So let's hold off before you say, "Oh no, these are garbage," and fulminators and dragons are still going to kill everything. Let the meta shake out a little bit, and then we can assess. And you need to, I think a big question that I need to ask, this is a podcast aimed toward competitive play ethic, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of players need to ask themselves what kind of players they are, because not everybody's a competitive player. Not everybody's a tournament player. I love my brother when I realize he's not a tournament player, because he'll take 3 hours to do a turn and a half, and that's fine. But you're not a tournament player, and so it is. That's that was just me venting on my brother. But I think Fire Slayers and Deepkin are both competitive armies, and I think we need to shake out, and I think they're going to shake up the meta. And I still think we need to see where we're going, which is a cop out. But Stormcast is still good. Nurgle's still good. We're back into this paper rock scissors we were talking about.
Well, you mentioned that Nurgle's so good that immediately made me think of trees, which immediately made me realize that the Predators and Prey thing is just so new. Alariel is definitely not the strongest god character, but I mean, she got a lot scarier with her most recent updates. So you might actually start seeing Sylvaneth do some work now. Being prime hunters.
One of the best Sylvaneth players I know just went through a tournament. And that's with a army that is, if you listen to a lot of people, oh, it's trash, you don't even think about it. It's like, no, it's a good, and that was pre-Predator Prey.
Well, that trash army is about to do a ton of extra bonus points, killing all your Gargants or killing your Fulminators or whatever, right? Like
with the new updates, the only army I feel bad for is Giants. Legit, like, oh man. Yeah, that's the only one where I think, hey, but I think it is a lot of overreaction, because if you ask yourself the question, like I mentioned, like how many games have you lost to by 1 or 2 points, and you probably can count them on one hand, and like, so it's like for you to shift, like, okay, I'm going to drop all these, even though Alex mentioned I am dropping my long strikes for adjudicators. So I'm switching up a little bit, but I'm still having fulminators. Just because I thought I had too many of those Predator armies or whatever. I had fulminators, reinforced, and long strikes reinforced. That's 4 points I'm giving up if they die. So I'm like, oh, let me,
change some things around.
Yeah, move some things around. But And so I think we're still we're in transition period, and we're going to be for a little while, just because books are coming out. It's third edition is less than a year old, and so we are in a transition period. And this is a living, breathing game, which is enjoyable. Like, I played fantasy as a kid, started in '92 with 4th edition. And like, you got a book every, it was a long time between books. And
so long.
Internet wasn't even a thing, really. And so I think we get to this point where we're so accustomed to how fast things move that even though we get a book every like month or so, it's still not fast enough now. And we can complain and complain and bitch about stuff, but I think if we could take time to appreciate what we do have, and not, because I'm glass half full, what I'm going to say. And so I think if you look at it and enjoy what we're doing and enjoy the game as a living, breathing game, I think you'll be definitely happier.
Totally. I think Jack hit a really awesome point, which is kind of how he's changing his list to adapt to the meta by trimming down the long strikes. Alex, I'm curious if your list is changing at all to adapt to kind of the new meta rules that have come out.
Oh, well, I'm going to first apologize to any Corsairs that are listening to this. They have had to listen to me and watch me post a million lists. I've never really built a list based on meta. I play Death Armies. Death Armies are always considered, they're never really A tier. They're always something different, B+. Maybe A- at best, I guess you could say. OBR, when they first came out, may have been an A-, right? But like, none of the armies they play are really, really crazy OP, so to speak, right? But I played the same list for a really long time, and then there was LVO, and then right after that was ECO, with like not enough time for me to practice, and then a week after that I went to Old Town, and I was like, I guess I'm bringing the same list to both events, and like I'm bored now. I'm just flat out bored of my list. And the last event, the Zombie Dragon did this. He did jack shit the entire game, right? He did nothing all 5 rounds, basically. So, he's a distraction Carnifex. He died almost every game, which is cool. But he did what he needed to do, I guess you could say. So I've been messing around with a bunch of stuff. There's basically like very strong named heroes that I'm trying to get big combos of, but it's requiring me to sacrifice a unit or a number of models, and I don't want to do it. And it's like when I remove Radikar, I miss Radikar. When I add Neferata, I'm like, cool, but I'm eliminating myself, right? So I'm replacing the Zombie Dragon with something. I don't know what it is yet. And I am bored with this army. So I want to make OBR work, but I know I can't in this. If I lived in Southern California, I could, there's not as much shooting, and the shooting does exist as low range, but not in our meta, not in our region. Yeah. So definitely shelving. I should be shelving the OBR for now. And then I hope that I find some secret sauce with little ghosties whenever they come out. Jeremy thinks they're going to come out midsummer. I am shocked if that was the case. I told him if they don't come out by May, I would be very disappointed. Okay. Yeah.
I ain't gonna say nothing. I can't comment.
All right. No, we're good. And nor am I asking. But I don't think they're going to show up in July. But I am very excited about just what's ahead. May or what's up?
July. Jeez,
Oh yeah,
that's a long time.
Oh, word.
It's gonna be before then.
Yeah,
So-
seriously.
With that, you guys talked a little bit about your armies, where you're at with them. What events coming up are you excited to take your armies to?
I definitely want to give a shout out for Rose City Wrath, which is coming up soon. I get to see you guys. I get to play you guys. Hopefully not, because you guys are really good. I like to lose that first one and seal my way to the top. But I have to. So Games Workshop, the producer of the game we love and play, is coming to Seattle, but Tacoma. It's less than a mile from where I grew up, and so I have to go to this. I cannot go to this game I've played since I was a kid, and they're going to be the Games Workshop US Open in Seattle. I am excited to do it. I bought multiple tickets. I got 4 tickets just because I'm like, who needs a ticket? I got 4 tickets because I'm like, who needs a ticket? Because there's some people who not gonna need a ticket. And I'm like,
Wow.
Who's gonna go? Because I bought extra. Because I'm like, people need to go to this. Who are like, and yeah, and so I'm gonna give them away.
Jack, I can take a ticket.
If you don't have a ticket, hey, hit me up after this, because I'm like,
we're good
to go because it's big to me, and I'm excited to go. I definitely want it to sell out because I want them to come back.
Exactly.
I want to show out because before I was into MMA, this is a side note, but I was into MMA for a long time. I got to travel for UFC events, and UFC started to come to Seattle for a while, and I'd always get tickets, and it sold out, but they kept coming back, and then they stopped. There hasn't been one for 5-6 years because the last one was we had to fill the lower bowl type thing, and I'm like, I want to sell this out so they will come back because I this is awesome. So US Open for Games Workshop, I'm super excited for it, and don't know what's going to be, but I want to show out. I want people to travel to it, and it's sad because I'm hitting up Gavin, hitting up the dudes from Warhammer Weekly, hitting who's coming to Seattle, and it's just crickets. I'm like, well, that's messed up. I came to your city. I came to stupid Atlantic City.
Yeah,
y'all
seriously.
For me? Y'all can stay at my house. I'm giving up rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm looking forward to.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, for me, I have a whole ass spreadsheet of events that I'm either watching or want to go to or are going to. In just like Jack said, of course, Portland, Oregon, Rose City Wrath, very excited about that. TO, he's a Warhammer hero, Jeremy Srofe, always runs a really cool event. Wish the venue could have given him more space this year. If anyone from that venue is listening, do it, make it happen. There's a wait list, and they could always go elsewhere, right? When it comes to venues. But of course, there is a discussion that we have not even had at all, which is the idea of the fact that there have been these regional leagues first started by the Texas Masters crew. There's the SoCal Masters crew now. There's the Pacific Northwest Masters crew now. So, there's this kind of a unity within regions. We all like to compete against each other, but we are also a united front of being Pacific Northwest compared to being, Southern California and stuff like that. So I'm really, really liking the fact that there's these events that are part of those leagues, like that event. Of course, Warhammer Open Tacoma, because I'm not going to call it Warhammer Open Seattle.
It's definitely not Seattle.
No, definitely not Seattle.
It's not Seattle.
exactly, is an event that I'm very excited for. If we're just explicitly talking about, let's say, April and maybe even going into May. And then, of course, there are 2 events in May that I really, really want to talk about. One of which I'm being hassled right now to mention, which is Bay Area Open. Of course, it's a frontline gaming event, and it is run by our illustrious teammate and co-host, John. And so he will be there. He will be organizing it. You give him a cookie, he might give you a few extra points. Who knows? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Words are coming out of my mouth. And that's going to be on the peninsula, just near SFO. It's going to be in the Bay Area, basically. So it's just south of San Francisco. And so that'll be a really good time. I know a lot of people from Southern California.
That event's cool because it's tied in with Kubla Khan, which is a big, cool, fun nerd convention. So, when you're not even playing, you got a bunch of cool nerd stuff to go check out there too.
Exactly.
I might want to go to that one. When is that?
Look up Kubla Khan with a K.
Okay.
Yeah, look that up. Or in Bay Area Open.
I believe it's. Let's see. It's May 28th. May 28th, 29th. They have an Age of Sigmar. They have 40K, and I think they have Kill Team as well. So
they are having Kill Team, yeah.
Cool events. So in there for sure.
Awesome.
There's one other event also that I wanted to promote, especially if there are any regional folk, Pacific Northwest folk that are listening. One of my favorite experiences since I moved up to Portland years ago, primarily doing 40K and then getting into Age of Sigmar, of course, was, and I had met basically Ben while going to events in Spokane. And Bob, our good friend Bob, he is one of the Helvetican crew. He has a Gamers Haven is the store that he owns. He has since moved that store from like the outskirts of Spokane to kind of like central downtown Spokane area. Unfortunately, we're going to very, very much miss the dive bar that was within the parking lot that also had a poker room for Ben. But RIP Black Pearl, but we're going to have a lot more bars that we could go to downtown. And in fact, he has a restaurant, a Cajun style restaurant attached to his game store that he also owns. So I'm very excited, not for myself, but for others to enjoy that food. And then, he is going to have an event. His first GT for Age of Sigmar is going to be there. It's coming right up. It is going to be specifically on the May 14th. So if you guys are in Washington, Idaho, Minnesota, the entire West Coast, Nevada, whatever, even if it's an okay drive to Spokane, Washington, make it. It's going to be a great time. Even our friends to the north, if there are Canadians who want to come in. It's going to be a fantastic time. I know that there were maybe a few tickets that were stolen from Warhammer Open Seattle. If people can only make one event kind of thing, which I get, but I want to have as many people come. We're going to have a really, really good time. And that's basically what I'm going to say about that. Everyone go to Gamers Haven for that and Storm of Silence 2 weeks later for 40K.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I think we had a great show today. I really appreciate all you guys' great thoughts on the meta, games, etc. I think we've got some great stuff to look forward to. We hit some awesome subjects, focusing from events that were coming up, how the meta has changed, shooting might be on the way out, and how we talked about, shooting's king, but we've got fire slayers coming in, and also play your own list, ask questions from your opponent. We've had a great episode with some awesome guests. We appreciate everyone from checking out this, and we'll see you on the next phase of the In Your Phase podcast. Thanks for coming out, guys.